All right. Welcome, guys, to this video where I'm going to show you how to use the 3D modeling program called SketchUp to create a 3D model of the six-piece burr puzzle. First thing you need to do is click on My Umble on your desktop in order to get to Rapid Identity here, and you're going to open up the SketchUp app. So that's right over here, guys. This is the SketchUp app. I'm going to open mine in a different window, but you would click on this and then log into that using your Umble ISD credentials. As you're doing that, I also want to point out that I am not actually listening to the Hawaiian grooves uh, right now. But what you can do, because I know you guys are looking at this video in YouTube, what I want you to do is on this YouTube video, right click, and you'll see this black menu. But we'll go over to a different spot in that same video window and right click a second time. And you're going to see this option that says picture in picture right here. So picture in picture is going to allow you to put the video that you're watching in its own sort of hovering window that's always going to be on top of everything you're doing. And then you can come over to SketchUp and you can move this video around. You can pause it. You cannot rewind it or fast forward it from here. You'd have to go back to the tab to do that. But this is going to help you follow along with me step by step. Okay, here we are in SketchUp. I want to point out, if you're on a desktop, you need to make sure you have mouse selected over here. If you're on a Chromebook, you need to make sure you have trackpad selected here, or if you're on any other trackpad device. So with the mouse, you're going to use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. The scroll wheel in the middle of the mouse. That same scroll wheel, if you click in on it and hold that button down, because the scroll wheel is also a button, you're going to be able to orbit. An orbit is going to allow you to move around a singular point and yeah, we'll literally orbit, right? If you're holding down this button still to orbit and you press and hold the shift button on your keyboard, now I'm panning left and right. So you see this is panning left and right. You can pan up and down in all directions, but then as soon as I release shift, I'm back into orbit. And all this time I'm holding down the scroll wheel on my mouse. So that's how I move around. Now, I am going to leave the teacher lady. This is a teacher. We're going to leave her there for a second, and we're going to zoom in kind of like this near the origin, where these lines converge. It's called the origin. Now, the six-piece puzzle, we only drafted on paper. We drafted 4 pieces because there's some repeating pieces, and we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to start off with the rectangle tool. Over here on our toolbar, you can customize this, by the way. I'm going to let you figure out how to do that. But you can customize what tools go over here, and you can see what I have, and you might want to change that around as you're going. But I'll let you pause and figure out how to do that. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool to start off with. And if you notice, as I hover over that rectangle tool, it says R in parentheses. That means if you press R on your keyboard, we can get over to our rectangle tool a little quicker, little keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to click on the origin one time. So you might hear this mouse click. All right, you hear that click in, click out. I'm not holding the button down. It's very important. So I move now in the direction I want to go. And then I take my hand off the mouse or off the trackpad, and we're going to type in some dimensions. So again, if you missed that, I'm going to say it one more time. You click one time and release. You click in and out. Don't click and drag. Then you're going to move in the correct direction. And you see the correct direction for me was toward the red and the green lines like this. And you see my rectangle is blue. That's all very important because I could move in different ways, like I'm not gonna, yeah, there we go. Green right there. We're not looking for green. That would make our rectangle stand up tall. We're wanting to make a rectangle that's sort of on the ground like this. Now I'm going to type in these dimensions. We're going to type in 3/4. And by the way, and if you look over in the lower right-hand corner of the screen here, you're going to see where it says dimensions, and that's where your numbers appear. Sometimes students want to click into that box to start typing, but that's not how it works. So once you have started to make geometry, which is what we're doing now, we're starting to make a rectangle, the field becomes active immediately, and you can start typing. Oh, excuse me. You can start typing your dimensions. So we did 3/4, that's 3/4, and then we're going to put a comma. Comma is important as well. And then we're going to type 3. Now, all these numbers are in inches automatically. You do not have to specify inches. Next thing I'm going to do is press enter or return on the keyboard. And as I do that, you can see it makes a tiny rectangle down here because this is the correct size. So this is why having this teacher lady over here is important, because you can see she's probably like, I don't know, 5'8" or something like that. And that's a real size because this is 3D modeling real world numbers right here. And we just typed in our numbers that was 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches long. So it's pretty small. At this point, if you want to, you can come over here and select the teacher and delete her. Now, the way you select, if I haven't told you yet, is this select tool up here. This is the first tool on your toolbar. You can also press the space bar in order to select geometry. So I'm going to press the space bar, then I'm going to select this lady. It gets highlighted in blue, and then you can either hit backspace or delete on your keyboard, and she goes away. All right, now let's zoom in on what we're working on. And what we have here is a flat rectangle. It has no depth or thickness to it. So we're going to add that now. To add that, we use this tool right here. This is the push-pull tool. You can click on this or you can press P on your keyboard. Now, before you make a click, you have to make sure that your mouse is over the right area. We're going to make sure that, you see how these little dots come up? We're going to highlight this area. We're going to make sure that it kind of pops out at us. And I'm going to click one time on that. Again, click and release without moving your mouse. So click. And now after you've released, now you can move in the correct direction. We want to move up, and then we need to type in a certain number and press enter, just like we did before. So wherever you move in here, you could actually make another click and lock in your geometry then by making a click, or you can go ahead and type in your number. I'm going to type in 3/4. You see that appears in the bottom right under distance there. And then I'm going to press enter, and that locks in our geometry. And guys, this is actually piece number 1, right? Piece number 1 was just a rectangular block like this. So before we move on to piece number 2, though, we have to do a very, very important step. So go back to your select tool, and then with your select tool, you're going to triple click. 1, 2, 3. Make sure it's not a double click, and make sure it's a triple click, and all 3 dimensions get highlighted. You see how everything is highlighted here? A common mistake is for students to double click, and you see only 2 dimensions are highlighted, but everything underneath those 2 dimensions is not. So that's not what we want. We want a 1, 2, 3. And you can do it fast, but you can't really do it any slower than that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now it's all selected. We're going to right click, or secondary click if you're on a trackpad. You would use 2 fingers and click in on a trackpad. And you're going to bring up this menu. This is the only way to see this menu. You're going to select right in the middle. It says make component. Component. That's the important word here to remember. So we're going to select make component. And you can define certain things here if you wanted to, but we're just going to click OK. Don't worry about that menu. Just click OK and confirm it. Now this is all one unit. Before it was not one unit. Before it was just 6 faces, a bunch of lines that were kind of touching each other. But now what we can do with this is move it all together. We can make copies of it and a bunch of other things actually that are super helpful. So I like to change my orientation for this project to something about like this, so I can kind of see it from the top down. Okay, next move is to copy this component. So with it selected like this, we're now going to select our move tool. Our move tool looks like this. If you're having trouble finding any of these tools, you need to click on the ellipses and you'll see the full menu over here. Okay, so the move tool looks like this. It's these 4 red arrows that go in 4 cardinal directions, and the keyboard shortcut is M for move. Now, you see when we hover over this object with our move tool, all these different new things come up. What we're going to do is click on a corner. Click on a corner one time. Click and release. Now you can see I can move this entire thing together. But before you click a second time, I want you to press Control. You do not need to hold down Control. Just press it one time. And you'll see there at the very bottom of the screen, right here where my mouse is pointing, where it says Control equals copy. And that's what we're trying to do, trying to get into copy mode. So I'm going to press Control one time. And you'll see there's a little plus that appears in the corner of my move tool now. And then I can make a second click. So I'm going to go ahead and make a second click. And that is going to lock in the location of my new copy. All right. Now, We're going to go back to the select tool or press the space bar, and we're going to right click on the new copy that we just made. And this is a very important step. Right underneath where it says edit component here, you're going to see where it says make unique. Make unique. That's an important thing. You have to select that. So we're going to select make unique. If you don't select make unique and you start making changes to this new component that we just made, then the component that you copied it from will also receive those same changes. And we do not want that right now. Okay, so we have to make it unique, and now we have to edit the component. There's two ways to edit the component. The quickest way is to use your select tool and double click like that, and you'll see this dotted line kind of gray box that forms around the component. This is edit mode. You could also, I'm going to click out in the green area to leave edit mode. You could also right click on it, and I pointed this out earlier, but you'll see where it says edit component, and that brings you into the same space. Okay, so now we are editing our component, and we are going to make the edits to this block of wood in order to create piece number 2. So on piece number 2, there's several little measurements that we had to make, and you remember we used the ruler and the t-square to get those measurements. We're going to use something sort of similar here, and this is the tape measure tool. I don't see the tape measure tool over here in my toolbox right now, so let's see if we can find that and pull it over. Oh, you know what? Am I confused right now? You know, they changed a little bit of SketchUp here. This is where I'm going to need to edit this video a little bit. Oh, there it is. Tape measure tool's down there. Okay, so they changed the way that they do the toolbox, and my tape measure tool is now here. So the keyboard shortcut for tape measure tool is T. So you can select the tape measure tool, or you can press T on your keyboard. So the tape measure tool will measure the distance between points. If you click on a corner and then on another corner, it'll tell you, as you can see there, 3/4 of an inch, right? If you click on a corner and then come down an edge, it'll put this little guide point right there. You see that small, tiny little guide point? I don't want that guide point. I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes. I don't really want to use the guide point. What I want to use, though, is a guide line. So with my tape measure tool, to make a guide line, I'm going to select an edge. Now, it's important that you do not select the corner, but that you select an edge. You see the red square, and the text there says on edge. You want it to say that, and then you click one time, and you're going to move in the correct direction. At this point, you can now type in your dimensions. I'm going to type in 3/4. Just kidding. 3/4 for 3/4. Okay, so that gives us one line that we need. The next number is going to be 3/8. So I'm going to type in 3/8. And we're going to come from the dotted line that we just made. And we're going to come down another 3/8. Then from the second dotted line, we're going to come down another 3/4. 3/4. And then from this line, we're going to come down another 3/8. And all these, I'm actually looking at the draft right now as I do this. And so that's going to tell us where our dimensions are going to be horizontally. And now for the vertical dimension, we're going to click on one of these edges. Not one of these edges. Very specifically, it is the top right edge right here. And you still see that red box. And then I'm going to come over, and this is 3/8. All right, so if I went too fast there for anybody, this is where you would want to stop, rewind the video, and make sure you have all these lines in exactly the right spot. Once you have that, our next step is to make some rectangles. So right now, these dotted lines, they aren't actually things. They're just measurements. They aren't actually really any geometry that's going to make a difference. But they are important guidelines so that we can place our geometry. So we're going to click on the rectangle tool or press R on your keyboard. And then we're going to make two rectangles. And to do that, we're going to click on these points that say intersection. You see there's 4 intersection points here. We're just going to click on 2 of them. So I'm going to click on this one, click and release, and then come over here to this other opposite intersection for that square. Click again. Go ahead and do the same thing down here. All right. And now we will use this push-pull tool that we used earlier to pull something up. Now we're going to push something down. So select that push-pull tool, and it's important that you click in the right spot, because you see this part is highlighted. If I have my tool here, we don't want that part. We want this tiny square right here. Click on it one time and go down. Now, where you go down to is also important. We're trying to go down to this bottom edge. So anywhere along this bottom edge is correct. So if I click here, you'll see it takes away that notch that we're trying to take out. So I'm going to show you just for fun here. If I click on this back corner over here, really what I'm telling it is the up and down movement is being reduced by 3/4 of an inch. So if I click over there, same thing happens. Okay, so we have now completed piece number 2, but we need to clean it up a little bit. So you see all these dotted lines. We're going to get rid of them because they're going to be confusing later. So to get rid of your dotted lines, the guidelines, you're going to click on the right side of the screen on this right toolbar where there are glasses. Click on the glasses. And down here, there's a big button that says delete all guides. Please click on that. If you want to move this menu now out of the way, you can click on the arrow in the top right where it says close panel. Okay. Beautiful. Now we have our first 2 pieces made. I'm going to go a little bit faster now that you've got some understanding and some tools you've learned. In order to go a little faster, we're going to click on this one, click on our move tool, press Control. You can press Control either before or after you've selected the thing you're copying. And we're going to copy this one more time. I'm not going to copy it for the third one because, or rather for pieces 5 and 6, because what we do to piece 3, 4 here is going to make piece 5, 6 faster. So what you do need to remember to do is right click on this and make it unique. Very important. Otherwise we'd be changing piece number 1. And then to make your changes here, don't forget, you've got to double click on this to edit it. If you do anything to this piece and you're not in edit mode, you will not be changing the piece and your work will be in vain. Okay, so probably you know that we need to use now our tape measure tool. So I'm going to select the tape measure tool and begin to form our geometry. Now this measurement starts off the same. We're going to click on the top edge and come down with the dotted line and then type in 3/4 and press enter. All right, and now we will come down 1.5. So if I click on this line that we just made and I come down again, we're going to type in 1. You can type in 1.5 in a couple different ways. You can use decimals if you want, and sometimes I do just because it's quicker to type the decimals. So I'm going to type in 1.5 and then press enter. Okay, from this edge on the right, we'll click one time, then move toward the middle, and we're looking for 3/8. Now you'll notice right there, it actually does say 3/8. And you may have noticed that earlier too. I can actually click here, and I'll go ahead and do that. So you don't have to type in the dimension if you make your second click in the correct place. It works the same way. It's just sometimes easier to type in the very specific dimension you're looking for than try to find it by moving your mouse or your trackpad around. Okay, so we have to now use our rectangle tool, and we're going to make a rectangle over here. By the way, this helps if you're looking at the draft that we did. Next, we're going to use our push-pull tool, and we're going to click inside this rectangle, move it down. You can see my red square here telling me I'm on the bottom edge, so I'll click there, and that will delete the area I want deleted. And then I'm going to go ahead again and delete all these guides. Using my select tool now, I will click in the green area to deselect edit mode. And now we are almost done. We just have to do this final piece. The cool thing about piece 5 and 6 is it's very similar to piece 3 and 4. So I'm going to select piece 3 and 4, get my move tool, press Control to get into copy mode. You'll see there's that little plus button next to my 4 red arrows. select a corner, click that one time, move it over here, click a second time. Don't forget to use your select tool to then right click on this piece and make it unique. Very, very important. Don't skip that step or you're going to be working against yourself. So the measurement that you're given is 1 1/8 of an inch. So let's double click. Let's use the tape measure tool. And we're going to come down here from, oh, did I click in the wrong spot? Yes, I did. If you click in the wrong spot, by the way, if you click like in a corner, and the best way to get out of this is to press escape. Don't make a second click because you'll end up making a guide point where you don't want. So make sure that you've got this red square before you click, and then come down here 1 1/8. So to type 1 1/8, you're going to type 1 and then use the space bar to put a space in between your whole number and your fraction. And if you look in the bottom right corner, you'll see where it says length 1 space 1/8. That's 1 1/8. So once you've got that, press enter. And from this line, then you're going to come down a little bit. You're going to come down 3/4. That's 3/4 of an inch. And just to confirm, I'm going to measure from this line down to here. I'm not going to click again. I just want to see the number show up on my screen, 1 1/8, and that's what I'm looking for. So to get out of that, I will press escape, which is in the top left corner of your keyboard. Okay, now what we're trying to do is take this square right here, and we want to shift it down 3/8. So we're going to get our rectangle tool, and we're going to make the rectangle on the surface of that piece. And then we're going to use the push-pull tool, and we're going to select this part of the rectangle, and we're going to go down. Now this is important. You can't click on the bottom edge, which is what we've done before. What we're trying to do is push this down about halfway, exactly halfway. So I think I found it actually, but I'm going to go ahead and type in 3/8 and then press enter. So that's going to lock that into the correct depth, just like that. Then I will use my select tool and I will click out into the green area. Oh, don't forget to remove your guides. There we go. And we are looking pretty good. Kind of looks like the letters IECC, which is kind of funny. All right, so there we go, guys. This is the 6-piece puzzle, and we've removed our guides. We have all our geometry correct. There's only one thing left to do, and that is label our pieces. So to do that, there's 2 things we have to do. The first tool that I need to show you here is the dimension tool. So we're going to select this dimension tool. If you don't see the dimension tool over on your toolbar, click on these ellipses right here, and you'll find it in this menu. And you can also click and drag these over. That's how you change your toolbar if you wanted to do that. Okay, it wants to log me back in. All right, so I'm going to select the dimension tool, and the dimension tool is kind of funny, but you have to click on corners only. So I'm going to click on this corner, and then this corner, and then there's a third click I have to do. So I have to, you see how the measurement is there, right? I can move around. I can move up on the blue axis, over on the green axis, or on the face over here on the green axis. Wherever you move, wherever you want this to be, you make your third click, and that locks it into position. So I want it to look like this. Oops, I got messed up there somehow. And then I'm going to get my 3-inch mark, which is the length of that piece. And now you guys see here on piece number 1, there's not really anything else to mark except for the length and the width, right? And I don't really mind if you don't mark the length and the width of all these other pieces. So it's actually fine if you don't do that. But what is important are these numbers here. So I'm going to mark all these important dimensions right now. And I want you to mark yours exactly the same. The idea here is that you could give these plans to somebody and they would have enough information to be able to build this on their own. Now, it can be a little tricky if you've already used a corner for another dimension. So make sure that you're selecting the correct corner. You may have to play around with this a little bit. Otherwise, you'll end up accidentally editing another dimension. Like if I were to click here, you see how I haven't clicked here yet, but it's starting to highlight that 3/8. So if I click that, it's going to start me moving 3/8. But if I move my pointer down just a little bit, now I get that purple circle. and then I'm able to select and communicate with SketchUp in the way that I want. Okay, that's looking good so far. Now this piece is a little bit different because it's got cuts in 2 different dimensions, which really makes this kind of more difficult to think about building it as well as modeling it. Let's go ahead and label the opening over here. And I'm going to move this. See, I have 1.5 inches to the inside on this piece. I'm going to move it to the outside of this piece because I don't want to get too crowded over there. Let's see. The important part is the depth right there. So I'm going to pull that out. It's on a different dimension. So now on the red axis. And then we need to know how big is this opening. Let's go ahead and put that one though on the inside. And I think that about does it. Oh no, we also need to label this, although I think a smart person could figure that out. In general, it's hard to overlabel unless it gets hard to read. So I try to make sure that I move my numbers far away from other numbers so it's not too bad. All right, looks pretty good. Now the next thing we need to do is label the names of these pieces. So this tool right here is the text tool. Again, find it in this menu if you don't see it. Looks like an arrow with some letters and numbers in it. And then you're going to click on a corner or an edge, or it doesn't matter where, but like I'm going to click on the top corner of these components. And then you'll make a second click wherever you want the text bubble to be. So I'm going to click above the piece. I'm going to remove that text that it automatically puts in there. And I'm going to label this piece number 1. And then don't press enter because it just takes you to the next line. You'll have to take your mouse and click out into the green area. So we'll do that, and then I'm just going to go ahead and label all these pieces. So that one, I keep pressing enter. That one is piece number 2. Piece number, this is 3 and 4. Piece number 3 and 4. Make sure you write both of those numbers there. And this one is piece 5 and 6. All right. This is what your final model ought to look like. And then we will save it and turn it in. So to save it, you'll click that save button, save it in Google Drive. And then to turn it in, you need to come down here to download PNG. Click on that download PNG button, and then the blue button to download it, and then upload that file to your Schoology assignment.